We had a client that we worked with, and she was really struggling with profitability. She kept raising tuition. She actually did 3 tuition increases within a 15-month cycle, and she still could not catch up. So I helped her work with our 6 money leaks in schools, and she only used 3 of the 6 money leaks and cut her expenses by 50%. 50. She did not fire anyone, she did not slash any of her programs, and she did not work more hours. Again, the 6 money leaks are not hacks or spreadsheets. These are patterns. They are small decisions that feel so normal that your school does, but they quietly drain your school's profit. So if you've ever wondered why you're working so hard, but still not seeing the return, this is your first step to clarity. Click the link in the show notes and find out what it's actually costing you. Welcome to the Schools of Excellence podcast, a place for insightful conversations about building sustainable schools of excellence. Join me each week as we explore the importance of leading with your values, creating impact, and leaving a lasting legacy. My goal on the show is to provide you with clarity, elevate your mindset, and equip you with practical strategies and inspiration. I'm Chana Olshansky, a proud mother of 4, a former New Yorker, now savoring sunny Florida vibes. With a professional journey spanning 18 years across all levels of school leadership, I bring nuanced insight that delve into the intricate details of running a center, as well as the broader visionary aspects of leadership. Thank you for joining me for this conversation. Let's build a legacy of excellence together. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Schools of Excellence podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about navigating conflicting emotions around big decisions. So in school leadership, decision-making is a constant skill. And decisions, when you're in leadership, especially when you're high up in leadership, are really straightforward. They are a whirlwind of emotions and conflicting considerations. And I want to explain in today's episode a concept called ambivalence. And ambivalence is really this simultaneous experience of opposing emotional forces. And when you're making big decisions, this is a frequent companion on the journey of excellence and really just in any part of leadership. And so today we'll really dive into the nuances of ambivalence in school leadership. And I hope to offer you a lot of practical insight in how leaders can really navigate the complex terrain of decision making. Now, the thing about making big decisions is, there's a great book that I love by Ben Horowitz. It's called The Hard Thing About Hard Things, is that hard things are hard and making decisions as a school leader will always be hard. So this episode isn't a magic formula. This isn't a recipe on how to make decisions. It's a guide on how to manage the different and conflicting emotions that you will experience when you have to make hard decisions. So let's define ambivalence again, because it's a big word. Ambivalence is the coexistence of conflicting emotions and attitudes when you are making decisions. Okay, so again, ambivalence is the coexistence, they exist at the exact same time, of conflicting emotions and attitudes when you are tasked with a decision that you have to make. Now, the thing about anything that is hard or any journey that's worth even embarking on is there is no recipe, right? There is no real formula for success. It is a lot of figuring things out as you go along. And that's the hard thing about hard things, is that it's so difficult. And there's a part of us when we're feeling that ambivalence, when we're feeling those conflicting emotions, is a part of our brain goes to, well, there must be some specific answer, right? There has to be a specific formula that I just don't know of, right? There's something that I just don't know. And that's really our brains tricking us into believing that there's some sort of magical pot of gold that you just didn't get the memo to. And the hard thing about decision making is that you will feel these emotions. And that doesn't mean you're making the wrong decision. And it doesn't mean that there's something wrong with your leadership or that you're not equipped to do this job. It means that you're doing something hard. and something that's different and something that your body isn't used to. And so it's going to feel polarizing in your mind. A lot of times our legacy clients, so our clients that we have 3 tiers inside of the Schools of Excellence membership. We have our Directors Inner Circle, where we work with directors. We have our Owners HQ program, where we work with owners and kind of regional leaders. And then we have our legacy, which is our owners that own multiple locations and are really looking at creating legacy. And one of the things that are available to our legacy clients is the ability to message me privately throughout the week with mindset stuff or blocks or kind of decisions that they have to make. And so we had a particular legacy client that had reached out and was asking about a really hard decision she had to make around firing someone on the team. And she was feeling all of this ambivalence around the decision. There was a part of her that was really conflicted. She knew that if she let this person go, she would be, thrust right back into the director role, into the day-to-day. And she had felt like she had finally just pulled herself out. And yet at the same time, this wasn't a performance thing as much as it was a real values mismatch. There was a lot of personal stuff that this director was displaying and things that were going on that were very much in conflict with the school's values and also the owner's personal values. And she had felt that she had hit kind of the impasse of like, okay, I have to let this person go. And so even though a part of her knew this was the right thing to do, I need to let this person go, she was still so conflicted because she's like, but maybe I should give her a second chance. Maybe, there should be another opportunity. Maybe we could create, a performance improvement plan for her. Maybe we could do something but all of that was driven by the fact that she really just didn't want to get back into the day-to-day. And, she was really tired and she didn't want to have to go through a whole hiring spree again. And one of the things that I really invite our clients to do is a 2-part journaling exercise where on one side of the paper, you write, what does my fear and ego say? And on the other side of the paper, you write, what does my higher self say? So when we're trying to make big decisions and we have all these conflicting emotions, one of the lenses to look through is understanding that one part of you, which is our fear and our ego, is telling you one thing. And then you have the other side of you, which is the part of you that makes decisions from a place of abundance, from a place of grace, and not from a place of fear and lack. And that part of you needs to be invited to the decision-making table. So I invited her to, do this journaling exercise where one side of her was writing, what my fear and ego was saying, which was, all the things that she was insecure about. And then what does her higher self say, which is essentially the lens for how you want to be making decisions through. And she wrote that down. After she did that exercise, it was really clear what she needed to do next, which was to let the person go. But then she had walked into that difficult conversation with a lot more self-assurance, with a lot more confidence, with a lot more poise and ease. And that translates into the energy that the other person's going to be experiencing on the other side of you. Now, this is a powerful strategy when you need to sit down and make really hard decisions, because a part of you will always be driven by ego and fear, because that's how the human brain works. But we want to make sure that the other part of us, right, the more tapped into intuition and our higher level of consciousness and thinking, are they also tapping into this conversation, to this decision here, and make sure that he or she has a seat at the table also. Another strategy to really be thinking about when you're making big decisions and you're having these conflicting emotions is assessing your own capacity. Do you have the right support in your life right now and the capacity to be making this decision? So a lot of times leaders will find themselves at a crossroads or this juncture where they're like, I have to make this decision. And what I challenge people on when they get on calls with me or when they message me for advice or I come in and do consulting is, do you even need to make this decision right now? Sometimes the decision is urgent and it's present and timely, and the decision does need to be made in this moment. And sometimes we're actually creating a false sense of urgency that the decision needs to be made today or this week or this month. And really, it's a planting seed kind of decision. And the decision can wait 2 months, 3 months. And so the reason I'm sharing that here is because if you're sitting on top of a decision that you need to make, assess your capacity. Is making this decision so soul crushing to you and so much weight on your plate that you can't even think properly about the pros and cons and all the things to make this decision? So journaling is one one framework to think through when you need to make big decisions and you have conflicting emotions. Assessing your own capacity is a second lens to think through when you need to make these big decisions. A third lens to look through is practicing mindfulness. So mindfulness such as breathing, mindfulness exercises, meditation, these calm your mind to manage your stress associated with the decision. Now, we all know that when we are in stress, what happens to us is we're in fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. And so we're either fighting to get what we need, we're freezing and staying in place, we're flighting, so we're escaping, or we're fawning, which is people pleasing and overfunctioning and overworking. And those are kind of the stress signals that come in. And when you're making a decision, you do not want to be coming from either of those four places of fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. You want to be coming from a very different, regulated, calmer state. And so meditation before you make a decision, and really any day that the decision is in motion. So some decisions are a one-day decision. Some decisions are a multi-day process. There's a lot of things that are at stake. And so it's a decision that happens over the course of several days. Some decisions happen over the course of several weeks or several months. Having a mindfulness practice that is directly correlated to this decision. So when you're sitting down for meditation, you're visualizing this specific decision and you're calming your body and your mind and your soul in direct relationship with this decision because you want your stress levels to be lower. You want to be regulated. You want to be calm when you're turning to make this decision. So that's a third lens to look through when you're making decisions around conflicting emotions. The fourth area to look at is taking breaks. Giving yourself time to step away and space from the decision-making process periodically. It's a really powerful part of recharging and gaining new perspective around the decision. So again, this is a decision that takes several weeks or several months to make. And so taking breaks from the decision is really powerful. So we had an owner inside of our program who was making a decision around a new curriculum that she wanted to bring into the school. And she was feeling so much conflicting emotions around this introduction. And she and I were talking about it on one of our calls. And I said to her, do you need to make this decision this week? Can you pause and take a break and maybe revisit it in a couple weeks from now and see if you feel differently about introducing this? So she loved the idea. She took a break. She did some journaling. She took some time away and she messaged me a week later and she's like, you know what? In the pause, I actually realized that my team actually needs a break from new ideas. They have had a lot of new ideas come at them recently, and they've been doing a really good job implementing all of these new things that I've introduced in the last couple months. And she's like, the resistance that I was feeling around introducing this was really around the fact that I'm realizing that one more thing may actually tip everyone over the edge and actually cause a lot of unnecessary stress and burnout when there is no urgency in introducing this curriculum this week. We can wait a few months to let everyone feel a little bit more stability around some of the other changes that we've done. And she just felt so much more confident and self-assured around the fact that she had waited. And she ended up waiting, I think it was about 6 weeks, maybe 8 weeks. And when she introduced the curriculum, it was so well received. And I remember she had posted about just the confidence and the self-trust that she had, that she waited and didn't feel the urge and the urgency to do it that week, and that, her school is doing amazing, even though it waited, 6 to 8 weeks for its introduction. So taking a break to step away and take the space to recharge and gain that perspective is another lens to look through when you're making big decisions and you're navigating all these, conflicting emotions. Another angle of taking a break is actually having on your calendar predetermined times that you take pauses and breaks from the business. So a lot of you know that, well, if you've been following me for a while, you know that one of the rhythms that I have inside of my company is I go away about once a quarter for a couple days by myself. So I'm not traveling to speak. I'm not traveling for business. It's a pause from all the decisions and responsibilities in my life, both personal and professional. And in that pause, in that break, I typically bring with me a couple of big decisions or questions that have been weighing on me for the last few months, right? So in the last quarter. And I bring them in a journal, and I kind of just have them seated in the living room area that I'm staying in, or in the kitchen, or wherever it is. I typically rent an Airbnb. I stay local. I don't fly anywhere. Florida has some beautiful places to stay. And I kind of just put the questions there. And in the course of the pause from everything else that I have to do and being in a new environment, I get new perspective on these decisions and on these challenges that I need to work through. And it has worked every single time. I have been doing this since 2021. It has become such an anchoring and such a powerful practice in the quality of my decision making. And for a really long time, I used to correlate and kind of equate the speed of decision making with intelligence and wisdom. And so I would kind of always think in my mind, like, the faster I can make a decision, the smarter I am, or the more intelligent I am, or the wiser I am. And I've actually created a whole new equation for decision making in that, when I take the pause, when I practice mindfulness around decision making, when I take the time to journal and move through that exercise that I shared a couple minutes earlier, that is where the power and the wisdom really lies. Now, some of you are listening to this, you're thinking, well, I can't go away every quarter. That's not what this is about, okay? I shared with you a lot of different ideas here, a lot of different frameworks to think through. And even if you can't go away for a couple of days to take a break from specific decisions, just putting it away in a container and saying, I will come back to this in a few days. I'm not going to be obsessing or thinking about this, for the next couple of days. It's your brain needs rest, and your brain needs rest from heavy decisions. And if you're listening to this podcast and you're a leader, then you have to make big decisions. And so the last thing I want to leave you with here when you're, need to make decisions and have these conflicting emotions is, once you've gathered the information and you've considered all the different perspectives and you've evaluated the option, make the decision. Trust yourself that you made the best choice based on the information and resources that were available to you in this. So much of making decisions in leadership is about making a move, even when there are no good moves. And I know it sounds really simple as like one of the frameworks of just like make the decision, but yes, sitting in the indecision is a decision. You've made a decision not to decide. You've made a decision to continue to let it weigh heavily on your capacity. So make that decision. I hope that today's conversation invited your mind to open up to other ways to be thinking about big decisions and navigating those conflicting emotions associated with that. And this is one of the things that I love doing with our clients on our coaching calls, or when I'm working with clients one-on-one, or when I travel to do leadership days, mastering the mindset and the emotional experience around big decisions and around conflict, or all of these things that you need to be doing. When you can have the container to work through all of those things in your mind, the clarity and the self-trust and the self-assurance and confidence that you feel as you move forward in the next chapter, that That's what you're looking for. And I always say this to leaders, like, you're not looking for someone to tell you what to do. You're not looking for someone to give you the golden ticket. You know what you need to do, right? You just want to feel that self-trust around making this decision, even after all the ambivalence and all the emotions that you have to navigate. So this is just so much of what I love to do when we work with our clients. So if you're listening to this, you're looking for mentorship, you're looking for coaching in this season, I would love to invite you to apply to our Owners HQ or Directors Inner Circle program. The link is in the show notes. We have all the information inside of there. And thanks so much for joining us for today's episode. If you are loving the Schools of Excellence podcast and have gotten any value out of it for your school, I would love if you can do two things for me. One, subscribe to the show so you never miss an episode. And two, can you please leave us a review? Reviews help other school leaders know that this is the place to learn how to build a school of excellence. And I would be so grateful if you can do that for us. Your help and support makes this show to be able to be listened by the thousands of other school leaders all around the world. Thanks so much for listening, for giving us your time and attention each and every week, and I appreciate that you have joined us. If your accountant has ever told you to cut back on professional development or slash your teacher appreciation budget or your staff development budget just so you could stay afloat, or has told you, hey, you probably can't go invest in that program, please listen. The problem is not that you're spending too much money on your people or yourself or your investment or your support system. It's that your school has invisible money leaks that are draining your profit, leaks that no spreadsheet will ever catch or accountant. So I created the 6 money leaks of schools that show you the 6 core areas that schools lose money every single month without realizing it. If you close even one of them, your profits will start to soar without sacrificing your team. Go get it now and stop blaming the things that are actually building your school.